Welcome to Scorched Earth. This is going to be a general reading for the sign of Sagittarius, Sun, Moon and Ascendant for the month of March. We're in a Mercury retrograde at the moment and it's in Pisces as well, so I'm struggling with it a little bit. I hope it's being a bit kinder to you, but I find like it just puts me out. I'm a smouldering ruin during this time anyway, and throw a retrograde in and you know my technology is bricking itself right, left and centre, and I cannot speak, which is quite difficult given my job. So yeah, bear with me if I do stumble over my words a little, which is possible. I'm using the Tarot Mucha today, which is odd because like I asked which deck wanted to be used, and I usually use the Llewellyn or the Crow or such like, and I don't tend to use this one that much, but apparently I need to use it, so this is what we're going to go with. And that's interesting, the one card that's flipped in the entire deck, and it's the Wheel of Fortune, which is your card in the Major Arcana, so we'll take that as confirmation that the choice was correct. So with all that waffling out of the way, my 3 cards for Sagittarius please for March. What's coming? Ooh, okay, I'm not going to take that because it didn't jump, but it did flip, and it's the 7 of Cups, which is I think Scorpio energy, but it talks about having a bewildering array of choices, or options rather, open to you and not really knowing which one to pick. Yeah, so first card is the King of Cups. That's nice, I like that. That's Cancer, Pisces, Scorpio. Scorpio strictly as a person, and it doesn't have to be the sun sign, it could be, sun, moon, rising, Venus. After that it gets a little bit, dicey, but like those are the main ones. Maybe Mercury, retrograde. I 2 more cards for Sagittarius, please. Where is Sagittarius right now? Sagittarius' energy for the month of March. That one. Oh, beautiful. We've got Temperance, and that is your card, again, in the Major Arcana. Like it. Talks a lot about lots of things, but I'll tell you about that in a second. What's coming towards Sagittarius, please? What's coming towards Sagittarius in March? Oh. 10 of Pentacles. Like it. At the bottom of the deck, we've got the 7 of Wands, and that talks about feeling defensive. It talks about feeling guarded. Sometimes it can talk about feeling protective rather than defensive, because there is a difference, and it's slightly nuanced. But man, he looks ready for the fight, like. Look at that. His chest all up proud and everything. Yeah. Awesome. So, let's get some clarifiers, and then we'll get on with the meat of this reading. As the Emperor's just flipped there as well. You're starting to feel a bit more in charge of your shit, Sagittarius. I like it. So, why is the King of Cups here for Sagittarius, please? Oh, got the High Priestess. That's the card of Pisces in the Major Arcana, actually. So it could be talking about timing as much as anything. Intriguing. We've got the 5 of Cups, but it's come out in reverse, which I like also. Why is Temperance here? Ooh. Why is shit? It fell out, so I wasn't going to take it, but I'm going to show you anyway. It's King of Cups again. And the 5 of Swords has come out. Cards are very chatty. Woo. And the Chariot, which is the card of Cancer. This is a very watery read. There's lots of water down here. I like this. But it all seems quite positive, which is good. Why is the 10 of Pentacles here, please? Yeah, so Ten of Pentacles for Sagittarius for March. Ace of Cups, that's interesting. It didn't come out, but it did kind of flip and then turn sideways, so it kind of invited a look. Ten of Pentacles here for Sagittarius. With the Page of Swords. And the Ace of Swords. Wow. On the bottom of the deck, we've got the Nine of Pentacles, and that talks about, followed swiftly by the King of Pentacles. And that talks about self-sufficiency and independence, right? King of Pentacles is someone who's in charge of the material shit, right? There are kings all over this, and we've had the Emperor come out as well. This feels like a real assertion of self. This is getting on top of emotional and material considerations, and doing so quite well, right? Independence, self-sufficiency. So, the first card that you've got is the King of Cups, and I love this card. I love it actually more than I love the Queen of Cups, because I find the Queen of Cups a bit watery and a little bit actually tedious in some respects. But that's mean. I'm sure she's very lovely, but the King of Cups is for me somebody who is emotionally open, emotionally available, right? He's got an incredible amount of emotion, but he's mastered it to the point where he can sit in the middle of it, usually on his throne, looking fairly implacable, right? That's the thing. But what's interesting is that this is a slightly different depiction to the usual that you would get, say, in the Llewellyn, which I would use usually, right? Now, rather than sitting and looking implacable, he is stood up and looks triumphant, right? This feels like an assertion, right? He doesn't look like he's celebrating. He looks like he's really asserting himself over his situation. He's got arms at height. You're not going to fuck with me, right? I am on top of my shit. I understand my things now, and it's strong. It's a really strong position because there's a lot of water around. There's a lot of emotion, but he's there. And not only has he got, a throne that's made of stone, which is on, a nice big stone as well, sticking out of the water. He stood up, and it's a real powerful stance that he's got there. Like, it feels like a real embracing of the emotions that he's feeling at the moment. And this is what's in your recent past. It's kind of touching on the present. This is what you've been experiencing recently. Very watery card. Obviously, it's the pinnacle of the cup suit. What's come out underneath are two more water cards here, right? High Priestess, which is the card of Pisces, and the Five of Cups in reverse. Now, the High Priestess, I could talk about this card all day, right? It's actually, probably after death, my favourite card in the tarot. And she's endlessly fascinating on all sorts of levels, but we don't have time to go into it today. But the salient points are, she's card number 2 of the major arcana, right? And for me, 2s are internal. She is very much a card of the internal space, right? She's surpassed only by the Hanged Man in terms of passivity as well, right? She sees all, but she doesn't act, right? She's kind of like a repository of a great wisdom and knowledge. Yeah? She takes all of these things in, but she doesn't let much out, right? So sometimes she can come to talk about secrets and things like that, but that sort of gives the impression that she's actively avoiding, telling people things that she knows. And that isn't what the High Priestess is about, right? She's about, for me, the wisdom that comes from the internal space, the intuition, right? I was told once that intuition comes from spirit, and that's why you should always trust it, because they know better than you. And there's a sense of this being your higher self or your inner self, however you want to describe it. But she sits for me between these two columns, right? And these two columns are the end and the beginning. There's a sense of a transition that you've undergone recently, and it's the ending of a cycle, but you haven't quite started a new cycle yet. You're currently sat in this energy between the two, right? And it's been tremendously empowering for you. Right? Look at that stance there. It's like those, it's like those body language hacks that you see sometimes. So, where you're about to go into a job interview or something, and you're feeling a little bit nervous and a little bit overwhelmed, so you have to go into the toilet and practice power stances and stuff like that, because it tricks your brain into feeling much more confident about what you're doing. There isn't a contrived feel to this. Like, this isn't someone faking it until they make it. This feels like a very legitimate and genuine expression of the feeling of liberation that trusting your intuition and triggering this transitional stage has brought to you. It's very spiritual. It's a deeply spiritual card, and it could be that you've had a bit of a spiritual awakening of late too. Like, that's possible. But the other card is the Five of Cups. Now, this way up, it talks about, like, look at it. Actually, I really need to explain what this card's about. Like, some readers call this the crying over spilled milk card, and I actually hate that. Like, it's not very often that I will actively criticise other tarot readers, because I know how subjective and how intuitive and how personal, in fact, tarot reading is, right? Because when you go to a tarot reader, you're not consulting their ability to pull particular cards out of a deck. You are consulting with their life experiences, with their intuition, with their frame of reference, right? But I really hate to see this described as the crying over spilled milk. It's described that way because there are 5 cups, and 3 of them are knocked over, and whatever they contained is now spilled on the ground. It's draining away. But there are 2 cups behind him, right? And he's so busy grieving over these ones here that he does not see the 2 that are behind him, right? Yes, there has been loss, but something still remains, crying over spilled milk. But it feels so much more profound to me than that, right? Somebody does not don a cloak of black and pull that face about spilling some milk. Oh, actually, do you know, I might have done that when I was pregnant with my first son, because I spilled a cup of tea once. I was just so abjectly miserable I couldn't even bear it. I was really looking forward to that cup of tea. Anyway, it's by the by. This is grief, right? This is focusing so hard on something that you have lost that meant so much to you, that you fail to fully acknowledge what still remains. Yeah, because you've got your back turned to it. But it's come out this way up, right? And the 5s always talk about change. They talk about uncomfortable change. They talk about the status quo shifting, right? Just as 4s are security and stability, they're you knowing exactly where you are in any given space, right? The 5s come in and they grenade that, right? It's an energy shift. This way around, this feels like, well, obviously not feeling like this, not grieving over something that's lost, but having an appreciation, right? Because it's not, sometimes reverse cards are blocks. Sometimes they're the exact opposite of what it means in the upright. And sometimes it's just absolutely not doing that thing, yeah? A king in this stance, right, is not feeling this, right? There's an understanding that something's been lost, but there is no sense of grieving over it, right? And just as in the 8 of Cups, which is what I'm thinking of now, you've got a character that's turned their back on 8 cups that have amassed, and they're walking away because it doesn't mean anything to them anymore. So with this, there's a sense that of perspective, really, proper perspective, in that, yes, things are lost, but things do remain, and it's okay, right? You know, it's quite a stabilizing reversal, actually, because, you know, fives are unstable. They speak of instability, they speak of shift. This way up, it feels much more stable to me, and it's been brought about by trusting your intuition and empowering yourself emotionally. It's lovely. Then we've got Temperance, and Temperance is your card. And so it's really important that it's just popped out in the middle of the reading. I love to see it when signs present really strongly in their own readings, because it means that they're really aligning themselves with where they're supposed to be and who they're supposed to be, right? But Temperance, more than anything else, talks about patience and balance, right? It talks about being kind to yourself. It talks about alignment, really, actually. It's great healing that comes from this card, right? And there's a sense of you actively healing yourself, right? With whatever you know. Because it's a fire card, but it's watery as well. There's an alchemical process. 14 reduces down to 5, right? 1, 4, you put them together, it makes a 5. And so for me, it's always about healing off the back of adverse circumstances, of things that you have experienced, that have changed, that have wounded you, that have hurt you. It's bringing yourself back into alignment. It's bringing yourself back into balance. It's taking care of yourself. It's allowing yourself the time to heal, right? And we've got a 5 right here. This is what you do. This is your energy in the month of March. And then we have another 5 directly underneath, because we've got the 5 of Swords and we've got the Chariot. Now, this is really interesting because I feel like the 5 of Swords has been coming up for you a lot in the last couple of months. I'm not so sure about this, the 5 of Cups. It was in a different deck. It was in the Marigold deck, actually. Right? But everything that I said about the 5s holds true for this. This is shift. This is change. This is instability, right? But this time it's Swords. So we're talking about words, we're talking about communication, we're talking about the way that you express yourself, either internally to yourself, your thoughts, or externally to other people. You know, the exchange of ideas and information and anything that's going on in your head. And in this card, there's been some sort of, if not battle, then the threat of a battle between these 3 characters, right? And 2 of them have just put the swords down and they've walked away, and they've left this chap here holding all the swords, kind of feeling like he's won. But actually what's happened is a very mature assessment of the circumstances by these 2 characters here. And they've decided that whatever they will lose by continuing to fight is worth more to them than what they might gain with the possibility of them winning, right? And this is what you're healing from actively in the month of March. I feel like you are one of these people who has put your sword down rather than fight and walked away. Why have you done that? You've done that because of the Chariot. Right? The Chariot is an incredibly powerful card. It talks about moving forwards, kind of relentlessly almost, victoriously though. But more than that, as well as the card of Cancer, maybe there's a Cancer that's involved, more than that, it talks about the self. And I mean the self in the most important way possible, right? Not in being selfish or self-centered or, you know, self-interested, all of those kind of things. We're talking about a proper appreciation of one's self, one's needs, one's drives, one's desires, you know, autonomy, proper autonomy, self-governance, self-direction, self-discipline often, you know, something that a lot of people quite often are lacking. And it's a 7, right? And 7s talk about spiritual transformation. Got this High Priestess down here who's also talking about spirituality. Yeah? But there's a duality here in this card. And I love this because it means it's another card of balance. It's pulling in 2 things that are, you know, kind of opposed. Black, white, left, right, night, day, all of these things, right? This charioteer, let's get these sphinxes down here. And he needs to keep them in perfect alignment in order to drive forwards. And how does he do that? Because he hasn't got any reins. No reins on there, right? He's using the power of his mind. And this is astonishing. You know? This is great mental strength. If either of these sphinxes deviate at all, he will no longer continue to go in a straight line, right? And it talks about taking charge of yourself. It's talking about taking responsibility for yourself as well. Your thoughts, your ideas, your actions, everything, absolutely everything, right? And moving forwards in the right way for you. And I think it's beautiful that it's come out under here because, well, this is a 14 and this is a 7, right? So this is exactly 1/2 of what's going on with you at the moment. But they're both cards of alignment. They're both cards of balance. They're both cards of, you know, fixing things up. But this is something about it being you internally that you are fixing. You know, you've walked away from potentially from harsh words and things from other people, but certainly harsh expressions, whether that's people, you know, arguing with you, talking down to you, you know, giving you shit in any sort of way. You're like, no, I'm not going to spend my life doing this. I'm going to work on myself and I'm going to move forwards. And it's the right move, Sagittarius, because it is healing you a great deal. What you've got coming towards you in March is the 10 of Pentacles. That's the pinnacle of the suit right there. And being Pentacles, it talks about resources. And these can be financial, so we can be talking about money, but they can be talking about, you know, your home. It can be talking about your work, you know, if you're self-employed or your business or something like that. But it talks about commitment as well, because 10 Pentacles don't just drop into your lap. I mean, sometimes they do. Sometimes this is called the inheritance card. But, you know, increasingly as time goes on, people, you know, are being left life-changing sums of money less and less. So I tend to ignore that as I'm sorry, I'm just noticing things about this card that I've never noticed before, but I choose not to see it that way often because, you know, I'm putting up 12 videos, you know, there are thousands of people watching this. Not all of you are going to get inheritance at the same time, but it's an energy of something, right? And it is either a maintaining of very good material circumstances or an improvement thereof, okay? Because it's a 10. You cannot get any higher than this. So this can be the family. This can be business. This can be your business. This can be your home, right? This can be the amount of money that you bring in. You know, it could be a promotion. It could be a pay rise. It could be something like that. This is what's coming towards you. Two cards that you've got to clarify, and I do rather think that I will probably pull some more, is the Page of Swords and the Ace of Swords. And I find this very interesting because we go from very watery stuff over here to high mental stuff under here to clarify whatever this is. Now, the Page of Swords can be a message, right? It can be somebody bringing information to you, which may lead to an increase in your personal circumstances. So maybe you've been waiting to hear about a job, yeah? Maybe you've got the job. It's a transmission of information, right? But sometimes, just sometimes, because of the stance that this chap is you know, holding here, it isn't necessarily information coming to you. Sometimes it's information about you being transmitted elsewhere, right? Tarot readers call this the stalker card, and for good reason, because it's about information gathering and it's about moving it to and fro. But with this particular deck, in this particular depiction, although he might be pointing forwards, he's looking backwards, right? the information is flowing in a different way. I don't feel like it's coming to you. I feel like it's being transmitted about you. And then we've got the Ace of Swords, which is all about truth and honour and integrity and clarity of expression. You know, whether that's a sudden insight that flashes into your head and you can see the truth of a situation really, really clearly in a way that you couldn't, or whether that's somebody bringing that information to you, possibly, you know, it's a thing. Or it could just be an energy of you really being able to express yourself beautifully in the month of March, you know, really express what you feel, what you think, more importantly, and how you see the world. But I find it interesting that I automatically feel like the Ace of Swords is your energy. And the Page of Swords is someone else, right? And it's pointing towards you, but it's looking back that way. It feels like there's maybe a bit of spying going on, and it'll be to do with this, right? Whether that's your business or your home life, or, you know, whatever you are committed to at the moment. Somebody's watching, somebody's paying close attention. And like that sword that he's holding in his hand, it's one sword, it's the Ace of Swords. So he's, you know, he's got it in his hand, but he's looking away from it. He's not paying attention to it. He's reporting it back. Right? You've got this ace right here. It's there. It's beautiful. And this person's kind of getting a hold of it and going, oh, that's a really good Ace of Swords. That's nice. And taking that Ace of Swords back to someone else. So taking the information that it contains back to someone else. Tell me about this Page of Swords, please. What about this Page of Swords? That's too many cards. We've got a Queen of Pentacles, Knight of Cups, Three of Pentacles, Knight of Pentacles. Like, that's a lot of earth energy there. So it's Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. Queen of Pentacles is Virgo. Knight of Cups is Pisces, actually. Which is the season that we're in at the moment. And the Three of Pentacles, more earth energy. Knight of Pentacles is Virgo as well. There might be a Virgo involved, but if not, doesn't matter. Let's have a look. Tell us more about the Page of Swords, please. It certainly lends some credibility to the notion that there is a person to whom things are being reported back. Knight of Wands and Death. I think you're being counselled not only to be aware of, I've got the Ten of Pentacles there again, not only to be aware that this is possible, that this is happening, and we've got the Hermit, which is Virgo again, we've got the Empress, which is Taurus, and we've got the Three of Wands. Not only to be aware that this is occurring, but to perhaps tame the side of you that might not notice that ordinarily, because the Knight of Wands is the card of Sagittarius, right? And it's actually the card of absolute non-commitment, where the Ten of Pentacles is the card of commitment. So it suggests that you're undermining your ability to keep a hold of this, to keep care of this, to take care of this, by being a bit impetuous, being a bit spontaneous, you know, just kind of being a bit the way that you would usually be. You need to change that, transform that, because you're being watched, and you're being watched quite closely. Tell me about this Ace of Swords, please. This is Ace of Swords here. Good Lord. What's this Ace of Swords? Six of Cups. Yeah, we've got the... Oh, that's weird. So the Page of Swords has come out again, but this one's altogether a lot more sinister. It looks like it's about to, you know, just bury that sword into someone. And I feel like that someone is you, Sagittarius. But then we've got the Empress and the Six of Cups, and I don't usually read these cards this way, but the pair of them coming out together as they have, and I've never seen them come out together like this in this same way, is the mother and the children, right? So it could be that your mother is you know, there could be a mother and a grandmother. Perhaps it's, you know, your kids and the mother of your kids, perhaps, or, you know, this is the father of your children who's paying attention to them. You're just trying to, you know, do your thing, be a parent. About this Ace of Swords, please. Let's get some clarification on this. Shit. We've got the Eight of Wands, which is a Sagittarian card. That's its correspondence. It talks about swift incoming communication. Yes. Fucking hell. Dropping them all over. Knight of Pentacles again. Yeah. The Eight of Wands is your energy, right? So obviously it's fast, like Sagittarius. It's moving, it's you know, flowing, all of that kind of thing. But it's clarified then by the Knight of Pentacles, which is not only the card of Virgo, but it's a much slower energy. It's a much more careful energy, you know. And it's another way in which you're being asked to slow down a little bit, right? Because if you carry on the way you are, you're going to get speared quite ruthlessly. Like, slow down, right? The Knight of Pentacles talks about moving slowly, methodically in a particular direction, you know, and it's come out underneath here again. So we're absolutely talking about the same thing. Like, focus on this, right? Focus on this quite hard, because this knight knows the value of what it is that they're carrying. They know how important it is. They know how important it is to get to the end destination with this pentacle intact, well cared for, you know, unscathed, unscratched, untarnished in any way. Right? The Knight of Wands is a really, really fast energy, and it's bouncing around, and it's not committed, and it bounces from one thing to another, right? That's Sagittarian energy, for, you know, whether you like it or not. It is. This is a slow, plodding, methodical horse. Might even be a donkey. I don't know. Slow down and keep your eye on what is important, I think, because it seems like there are people spying in the wings, you know, looking for a way to spear your transformation, you know, to spear what it is that you've got going on right here, and like, don't give them the opportunity to do it. Head down, concentrate on the work or the family or whatever it is, you know, whatever the pentacle represents to you, you know, and think very clearly before you act in any way whatsoever. And like, take a bit of time to make sure that you are thinking strategically, I guess, but also honestly, because the Ace of Swords is, you know, it's divine, so it is always truthful, it is always honest, it is always well-intentioned. It doesn't always have to be comfortable, but it will be all of those previous things, you know. And don't gallop along so fast that you kind of lose sight of that, I would say. Right, I'm going to leave it there, Sagittarius. But best of luck and congratulations on all the healing that you've been doing. It's really good. Like, it's really nice to see. Yeah. Maybe focus a little bit more on your work, on your material stuff in the month of March, as it will see you right. All right, take care.